We are back on WKXX Live on a Tuesday afternoon. Chase Robinson here with you. And we're going to talk some Atlanta Braves baseball now with the voice that you hear right here on Northeast Alabama's home for the Atlanta Braves, Fox Sports 102.9. Ben Ingram joining us on the phone right now. Ben, thanks so much for taking time with us this afternoon.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
The Braves back in action tonight off of a night off last night. A very important series with the Mets. But really, when you look at it, the next 12 games are pretty important heading into the All-Star break. Just for hopefully the Braves to stay around 500, to break 500. But talk to us a little bit about this series against the Mets starting tonight.
Yeah, this was a really big stretch, and you started off with a really big series tonight. I think when it comes to these next three games, you view the Mets as the team that you're chasing, but I think at the same time you have to recognize that the Nationals are the hottest team in the division. So I think it's so appropriate that because we expected this division to be 3-4 deep coming into the season, and here we are, and you've got the Mets, Phillies, Braves, and Nationals all within 5.5 games of each other. So I think anytime you have a head-to-head with any of those teams, it's going to be enormous. And the fact that you have the Mets at your place, I think that's really big. The Mets are a team that are 29th in the major leagues in runs scored. Now that might be a little bit deceptive because they've had some guys out, and they've got a healthier bunch now than what they had for the last 6 weeks of the season. But it's a really big 3-game stretch, and if you could find a way to take 2 or 3 or better, you obviously feel good picking up a game or so in the standings against them. And then you got the Marlins, Pirates, and Marlins leading you right into the All-Star break. And everybody wants to finish strong going into the break. I think that really sets a tone for the second half of the season. I think that sets a tone for what you expect your front office to do leading up to the trade deadline. And after the All-Star break, it's a pretty rugged stretch for the Braves. You'll see the Rays, you'll see the Padres, you'll see the Phillies, the Mets, and then the Brewers. And that takes you into August. So you really don't have a whole lot of places where you can get your head out of water and breathe against really good teams after the All-Star break. So I think it's very important that this homestand is one that they take care of business, and furthermore take care of business leading up to the break, seeing the Pirates and the Marlins on the road going into the All-Star break.
Charlie Morton on the mound tonight for the Braves. His last 2 starts have been solid. Talk to us a little bit about what you've seen from Charlie and just how he's really, I guess, kind of giving confidence to the Braves when he is out there on the mound.
I like that. What you said there at the very end. I think that these younger guys are really looking to him as their leader. And while you've got some really good young arms in that rotation, I think you're going to have the tendency to look towards the veteran as your leader. And Charlie has been that. He's been doing it with everything in his arsenal. He's kept the ball in the ballpark. That's been the most important thing for him. And while his fastball location has been really good, I think what he's done with his curveball has been very good. Early on in the season, he was throwing a lot of 2-seamers. He wasn't getting the calls that he wanted. He wasn't getting the results that he wanted. And I think he decided just to simplify things. He knows he's got a good 4-seam fastball. He can hit 97 with his fastball. It's coming out of there really good. And I think he's enhanced the curveball. I go back to the start that he had about a week and a half ago against the Cardinals. He had a really good start versus St. Louis, and he leaned heavily on the curveball. And, of course, that's set up by his heater. But everything in his arsenal looked really sharp. He showed a lot of confidence in it, and he's continued that. So the fact that he has kept the ball in the ballpark, the fact that he's getting lots of swing and misses with his curveball, and he's putting 96, 97 where he wants with his fastball, he's as sharp as we've seen him all year. He's been extremely consistent. When the Braves signed him, you knew that he needed to have that kind of a season. He needed to be someone who you counted on every 5 days as being, if not your ace, then one of your aces. And I think he started to look a lot more like that. You want to see him go into the All-Star break strong. He'll get this opportunity versus the Mets. And the way that the Braves have lined up their rotation, it lines up as such where you'll have your best arms that are currently available going in this series outside of Ian Anderson, because they'll go Fried tomorrow. They'll go Drew Smyly in Game 3 versus Jacob deGrom. So you need these guys to be big every time they take the mound, but especially in a series like this against a first-place team that you have in your ballpark. This is a really big start tonight for Charlie.
We're talking with Ben Ingram of the Braves Radio Network. And Ben, pitching really has been the struggle for the Braves this season. Injuries on the pitching staff, the bullpen not performing kind of like was expected. What is it going to take, though, for the Braves to be able to push forward to get to that next level with the pitching staff that they have?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I think when it comes to the starting rotation, I think that's just a matter of being healthy. I like what they're doing in the rotation right now. Smiley and Morton are as good as they've looked all year. We know how good Max Fried can be. I love what we've seen out of Kyle Muller and the 2 starts he has made, so I think he can make some big contributions to the team. Your hope is that Huascar Ynoa would be healthy sometime in August and can come back and get back to what he was doing prior to his hand injury. So I think from the perspective of the starting rotation, you seem to be in pretty good shape. To me, it's the bullpen where you have the biggest concerns. And while Shane Green has pitched better, that's good. I still would contend that they need to make a move at the deadline and bring in another piece. You've got to be healthy. You've got to be consistent. I think that Will Smith has been pretty consistent in save opportunities. He's only blown 1 save, and while there have been a few other moments where he's not been his best, those weren't save opportunities. But continuing consistency with him. If Shane Green can get you outs in the 7th and 8th inning, that's big. And for Chris Morton, he's got to continue to be good. He's got to continue to throw strikes, and he has to stay healthy. Injuries have always plagued him. I think that's been big. I'd put Luke Jackson in there. That last outing for him wasn't a good one, but prior to that, he's put up all-star-like numbers, and I don't think we expected that out of Luke Jackson. I don't think anybody did. So the bullpen has got to be more consistent. Limit the walks, and if you could make a deal at the trade deadline to bring in another piece of that bullpen, that would go a very, very long way. I think it'd be similar to what we saw 2 years ago when the team went out and got 3 relievers at the break. That took a bad bullpen and put it into the upper echelon of bullpens in the National League that year, and they went on to win the division, in my opinion, because of it. So that's something that needs to happen. I'd furthermore like to see them trade for a corner outfield piece by the trade deadline. While they've been able to kind of piece it together with Abraham Almonte and Guillermo Heredia, I think you need to make a move and bring along a corner outfielder who could also be in your lineup every single day, be a run producer. I'm not sure who that person is, but I think that would go a long way. And after the terrible incident involving Marcelo Zuna and all those awful circumstances, it puts you in a situation that you didn't anticipate being in. And I think that's a hole that you've got to fill. So that's a pretty good list of things that you need to take care of, but I think that's where I would go. And if this team can just tread water through the month of July, if they can win these ball games they're supposed to, if they can hang around and be within 3 or 4 games going into the trade deadline, hopefully the deals that you need are available. You can make them happen. And then mixing that with getting healthy with some of these guys that I mentioned earlier on the mound, I'm hopeful that would give you what you needed in the final 60 games of the season to get you where you want to be.
Ben Ingram from the Braves Radio Network joining us here. And last question, Ben, just talking, we talk a lot about pitching. Everybody has their eyes on pitching for the Braves, but hitting-wise this year, of course, led by Ronald Acuna Jr., but offensively, the Braves have looked pretty good and have really helped balancing out that struggles on pitching with good hitting.
Yeah, they have. They scored a bunch of runs. They've been amongst the major league leaders in homers this year. You've got Ronald Acuna looking like an MVP candidate through the first 80 games of the season. Ozzie Albies, to me, is an all-star. This guy has just been tearing it up, and it seems like he has an extra base hit every single night. Freddie Freeman has displayed the best version of himself over the last 3 weeks, and that's been really good to see because if you look at his numbers outside of average, I think they're about what you'd expect when it comes to homers, RBIs, OPS, run scoring, slugging. I think those numbers feel like what you're expecting to see out of Freddie Freeman, but the average hasn't been there. The good news is it started to come up. He got over 250 the other day for the first time all year. He's at 254. So I think that from the lineup's perspective, so long as those guys are healthy, it looks good to me. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't go out there and get that corner outfielder I was talking about because you'd like to supplant your lineup with another powerful bat, someone who could be your 4 or 5 hitter and extend the order that much further because I love what Riley's displayed this season. Dansby's had his ups and downs, but hopefully he can have a more consistent second half. And in August, you'll get Travis d'Arnaud back, and that'll be a big addition behind the plate. And having that bat back will be really big. So getting healthy is a big deal. And the good news is you have time because we still have over half the season to go, and that's the good news. But once those guys get back, they need to get in shape and really get in gear pretty quickly, because by then you're going to be talking about less than 2 months left in the season. So it'll be a dead sprint to the finish, and hopefully you're healthy enough and hot enough to get you to the top of the division.
Ben Ingram, voice of the Atlanta Braves from the Braves Radio Network. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much for taking time with us this afternoon.
No problem. Thanks so much for having me. Do it again soon.
Ben Ingram from the Braves Radio Network. You can hear him tonight, 5:05 airtime, 6:20 first pitch, Braves Mets, here on Northeast Alabama's home for the Atlanta Braves.